everyone. Today I wanted to talk to you about the books that I read in the first half of July, and I'm filming this a little late because I just have a lot of respect for people that can actually stick to a filming schedule. I have tried so many times over the last 3 years of my channel to stick to some kind of regular uploading schedule, and I can't do it because there are just days I do not feel like filming. There's people here or life is crazy and I just do not do it, and so then I don't get it up on time. Because for the last 2 months I've been so good at like posting on Wednesdays and Saturdays and doing it regularly, and then this weekend I just hadn't pre-recorded. I didn't feel like recording this weekend, so here it is. It's a few days late, so we actually have I think like 10 books to talk about. Also, even though I'm filming right now, there's probably plenty of background noise. Got the chickens being loud in the background, the kids are in the kiddie pool splashing around and yelling and stuff, and my neighbors I think are putting in a pool, so they have like diggers and stuff like that, excavators and stuff sounding in the background. So sorry if there's a lot of background noise, but I'm finally in the mood to actually record this video. Well, that was enough intro. Let's just get to it, and I'll try to be quick because there are a lot to talk about. I'm gonna go in order from the one I like the least to the one I like the best. So I had about three-star reads, and they very much varied in their 3-star. Some are probably closer to the 2 side and some are closer to the 4. So the book I like the least is the only one I don't have physically, and that is The One by John Mars. I listened to this on audiobook, and I did this as a buddy read with the woman who she was a subscriber who won my giveaway back at my 3-year booktube anniversary back in May, and so she ended up buying this book with the giveaway money, and I was like, let's read it together. So we read it together, and yeah, I didn't love this. This is a very popular thriller. People have been talking about it on booktube for a few years, and so I was really interested in it. The concept sounded great, and I just didn't really like it that much. Like, it was fine, but it's probably closer to a 2-star than a 3-star because there was a lot of stuff that I just didn't like about it. In case you haven't heard of it, this is a thriller that follows this is a time when there is a matching service, like a dating matching service that matches you with your DNA match, and there's only one other person that's your DNA match, that's the one that you are meant to be with. And so we are following 5 people who have met their match and what that's like, so like what their relationship is like. Some of them are already in a relationship, and so it might, are they going to leave their current partner to be with the one, or, the big thing that people talk about is that one of the people is a serial killer. And so like we're following a lot of different people, so 5 different people and their situations. And yeah, so I think the problem when you follow 5 different people is that, there's probably always gonna be perspectives you don't like. And for me, there was like 2 perspectives that I like hated, and like at least one of them I really wanted to just fast forward through their chapter every single time. I just really hated following this person, and I was like ranting to Lindsay every time we checked in. I was like, I just can't stand this woman. I don't like following her. I think her decisions are horrible, and I just do not want to be listening to her anymore. So, and there was some problematic content too, I thought, in her sections. So anyways, I just didn't love it like everybody else did. I thought it got kind of better as it went because some of the surprises were fun. But yeah, it's okay. I'll give John Mars another try. I might try The Passengers because I think that concept of a book sounds interesting. But if it's kind of a similar writing style, I might end up John Mars just might not be for me, but I want to at least give him one more chance because this is one of his like really earlier books. Like I think he originally self-published it and then it became popular. So I'll give him one more chance now that he has more books out. So then moving on to one that's like a little more on the higher 3 scale. So I read Ghost Squad by Claribel A. Ortega. I've read a couple middle grade books this month as part of Middle Grade Magic Readathon, and this is one of them. And this is like, it's a ghost story book, and so I bought it. I recently did like a haul of a lot of spooky middle grade because I've been getting into it, but I'm kind of like pinpointing what kind of spooky middle grade I like, and this is more not really up my alley, but I thought it's still a good book, so I gave it a 3 stars because I think this is a good book that I want to pass on to my kids, but that wasn't really my style. This is more on the like goofy, cartoonish kind of spooky, kind of like Scooby-Doo kind of level of spooky kid stuff, but not like I like it to be actually really creepy, and I don't think this is actually really creepy. I think it's more on the like silly side, or just fun side of spooky. And so this is about a girl named Lucille, and she is able to see ghosts of her family, like her family members who have passed on. She's able to see them, and then her best friend, the two of them together find this spell, and they accidentally wake up some evil spirits in their town, and they need to get some help to save the town from these like evil ghost spirits. So there's like good ghosts that are like Lucille's family, and then they're like the bad spirit ghosts that they're trying to hunt down. And so that's why they're the ghost squad, trying to hunt down these ghosts. So yeah, fun. I'll definitely pass this on to my child. I think when she's around 8. I'm sure she'll really love this because there are cats in the book. This isn't the cover that most people have. The other cover has more of that goofy kind of look to it because it's like two girls on bikes with the cartoonish cat and ghosts and stuff like that. But I think my daughter will like it in a couple years. The other reason why I rated it a little lower is that I don't know if this is her first book, but there were some problems I had with transitions. I don't know if like she was told to edit down the book, or maybe just because it's one of her first ones, she wasn't quite sure how to do transitions. But there were several times when I was like, am I missing pages? And like it would be like from one chapter to the next. And what happened at the end of the chapter did not lead to what the next chapter started with. And it was like we were jumping right into this moment of action. And I'm like, wait a minute. Did I miss something? Did something, like I was checking the page numbers, did something get pulled out? So it almost felt like there were scenes missing or edited out, and that could have just been like her just figuring out her transitions. So yeah, I think that I would try something else from this author, you know, because I'm sure she'll get better with time, but the transitions were very awkward. There was at least maybe like 4 times that happened, or they would mention something, they'd be like, oh, do you remember when this happened? And I'm like, no, that did not happen on page. So it was just like weird stuff like that I think is just, you know, it'd be fine. My kid won't notice it when she reads it in a couple of years, I don't think. But as an adult, I was like, it's a little like awkward transitioning. All right, the last 3-star book is Long Lost by Jacqueline West, and this is another spooky middle grade. And this one did go on the more creepy side, but only in the second half of the book. And that's why it got 3 stars for me, because I thought the pacing was a little off. This follows a girl, now it's been a while, Fiona, who they moved to this new town because her sister is like in line to be an Olympic ice skater, and so she needs to be closer to this big rink with coaches and all that stuff. So she moves to this new town that she doesn't know anybody, obviously, you know, and she kind of takes refuge in the local library, and there she finds this book that kind of is not like put it in the right position, like it doesn't have like the library thing on the side. It's just like an old book. She starts reading it, and it's kind of like this mystery book about these 2 sisters, and so she keeps going back to the library and reading it, and then like she starts to notice that there are things in this book, like locations in the book that are, when she, you know, rides her bike around town, she knows that there's like the same street names or landmarks and stuff are similar, or some family names are similar to things in her town. So she was like, well, is this book a real life thing? And it's kind of a creepy book involving these 2 sisters. So that's kind of the concept. So there is like some creepy stuff. There is a story within a story. So the first half of this, we are like getting the actual story that is in this book that she's reading. And I think that was part of the pacing problem, because we were getting the full story within the story. The first half didn't have a lot of like atmosphere or things happening, because it's like a whole different story that we're reading. And so the actual real time kind of small town creepy vibe didn't really start happening till halfway through. And so that, for me, that pacing was a little off. But like the last third of this book was like really notched up the creepy vibe and was like perfect. I really loved it. It would be like 5 stars in the last third. So that's why I set it on 3, because I just feel like I would have liked it better if the atmosphere was kind of like all the way through. But I did really think that this had great things to say about sister relationships, because there are 2 sets of sisters, you know, the ones in like the real current setting, and then the ones from the book, within the book. So this did have a lot of good things to say about sister relationships and family dynamics, and there was a really good creepy ending. And I know a lot of other people like this better than I did. I prefer the atmosphere to have been the same, kind of more in the first half as well, instead of it just being about the book within the book. It felt like that was the main focus, and I would have liked it to weave in a little more of Fiona's like discovering the town at the same time. Okay, well, I already am talking too long, so let's move through these 4 stars hopefully a little more quicker. I have Survive the Night by Riley Sager. I've read all of Riley Sager's books except for Final Girls, and I did really enjoy this one. This follows a girl named Charlie who needs to leave college because her best friend was killed by a serial killer called the Campus Killer, who has killed a few girls in the area over the course of a few years. And, you know, she's obviously struggling a lot with, you know, losing her best friend and things like that. So she just needs to get off campus. So she goes and like posts on a rideshare board, because this is back before you would have had online ways to do that. And she meets this guy at the rideshare board, and they decide to drive together from New Jersey to Ohio to get her home. And so this whole book basically takes place on that ride across I-80. And this is taking place in the, is it the 1980s? Yeah, so it's 1991. And part of the reason I really love this book is the nostalgia factor for me, because I used to live in New Jersey, and the college that they're at is a fictional place, but the way she was describing, you know, where it was in terms of I-80, the interstate I-80, and the Delaware Water Gap, it sounds like this fictional college is like 20 minutes from where I used to live in New Jersey, because I lived fairly close to the Delaware Water Gap, like within a half hour. And then I was often going from my, like the place I was living in New Jersey to my childhood home in Ohio, which was only like an hour from where she was going in Ohio. So I drove across I-80, which is just hours and hours of like empty, tree-lined, 2-lane highway, sometimes 4-lane, but a lot of times 2-lane highway where you don't see other cars. There's not that many gas stations. Like sometimes you're going quite a long time before you have services and stuff like that. So it's definitely a great location for a thriller where you're in a car with a stranger overnight. And I can vividly imagine that scene in my head, since I had driven that same route many times. And also, you know, because I'm a child of the 80s and 90s, like the Nirvana and like some of the other things, like only being able to contact the outside world with a payphone and things like that. So like there were things like that that made me remember being on road trips at this time, and it's definitely a lot different than road trips now. So yeah, a lot of nostalgia factor in this for me, so I liked that. There were times when the main character really bugged me because she makes a lot of really dumb decisions throughout this book, but I think that's kind of expected when it's just like her and this guy in a car, that in order to keep the book going, she's probably gonna make some dumb decisions, or else the book would just end earlier. So yeah, there were some things with that I didn't love, but nostalgia really drew this. I thought the atmosphere was really great, and I think it was perfect for him to set it at the time he said it, because it wouldn't have worked if they had cell phones and the internet and things like that. So I think that he did a good job setting this when he did and where he did. Next, I read a parenting nonfiction called When the World Feels Like a Scary Place, Essential Conversations for Anxious Parents and Worried Kids by Abigail Gewirtz, and she is a PhD. And this was a really good resource. It's the kind of book that I think I'm going to buy a copy, because even though I read it straight through, because I actually had a NetGalley arc of this that I didn't get read in time, but like I read the whole thing so I could review it, but it's better one that you don't necessarily need to read the whole thing. So like the first like third or so of the book is actually like setting up having these conversations with kids, like gives you broad strokes of like you know, how to approach children with topics, or like deep breathing. How do you get yourself in the correct space to approach your kids instead of yelling or overreacting and things like that. So it's about the preparation. So that part, you know, is like you would read through, but then the rest of the book is actually different examples of conversations about all kinds of topics. So that could include school shootings or police brutality, climate change, differences in political beliefs, online bullying, sexting, all kinds of things that you might have to discuss with your kids. And so even though I read the whole thing through, I think it would be better as just a reference that like, oh, if we're approaching the age where, you know, sexting would be an issue, like obviously I don't need to know about that right now with my kids at their age, but when they start to approach the age where they have their own cell phone, that would be a good one to read and be prepared to talk to your kids about that and stuff like that. So you wouldn't have to read the whole book at once. I do think that this would be, I might just get an e-copy to have it as a resource, but mainly she's talking about approaching your kids with a listening ear and like talking about their feelings instead of just focusing on the like bad things about situations and stuff, but like really bringing out how the kid feels about it and like how to brainstorm ways to like move on from situations and things like that. So I do think it's a helpful guideline for parents. Next, I did another buddy read with a subscriber named Michelle. She's also on Instagram, and I'll link her Instagram down below if you want to check her out, because she does review a lot of middle grade books. And we read together the first book in the Wing Feather Saga, which is On the Edge of the Dark Sea of Darkness by Andrew Peterson. And I had seen this around a lot in middle grade March, and the cover's just beautiful that I was like, I really want to read this book. And so we read it together, and I really did enjoy it. There were things about this that it took a while to get into, but by the end I was fully invested in the world. And basically we're following these 3 siblings, and they're living in this kind of world that's like already been taken over by these group of evil creatures. And so they, as kids, don't really know what life was like before. And then like kind of everything kind of implodes of like between the people and this family and the evil creatures, and like I don't want to get into why or what happens to lead to like everything kind of changing, because that would spoil all the reveals, because there's like a lot of stuff that happens along the way. Like I said, it takes a while to get into. Really, this is a very heavy world building book, and so I would say the first half I was like somewhat interested. I was like interested enough, but like, you know, whatever, I'm not sure I'm interested in. And then we started to actually get the action in the second half of the book, or even more like the last third of the book. So I'm hoping that the next book will start right off with action, because we have had all that world building. But it was a fun world. I'm interested to keep going. I don't know if I have much else to say about it right now, because like I said, mostly world building. And then my last 4-star book was a nostalgic read, and that was Bunnicula by Deborah and James Howe. Is that what? I believe that's who wrote this. And I remember reading this book when I was a child, and this is the 40th anniversary edition, which I love, that has like the velvet cover. And this is a very short, easy to read book. I think I read it in mostly one sitting. And it's just like about this dog and this cat. It's told from their perspective, like told from the dog's perspective. And, you know, they've lived together in harmony with their family, you know, with the kids and mom and dad or whatever. And then suddenly the family brings home a bunny. And especially the cat feels like there's something wrong with this bunny. And the cat thinks that the bunny is a vampire. And some weird things are happening. And it's just like fun little antics with the animals and stuff like that. I definitely wanted to read this because I wanted to see if it's something I could share with my kids, because I didn't know what the scare level would be. And no problem, this is something they can totally handle at their age 3 and 6, because it's just fun, and the fact that it's, you know, from these animals and it's just silly. It's not scary at all. And it was like laugh out loud funny for me sometimes. Like I found myself giggling, and my husband was like, "What are you reading?" And I was like, "Do you remember this book from like childhood?" And I showed him like the cover from like back in the, you know, 80s, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I totally remember that book." So this was a lot of fun. I'll definitely be reading this with my kids soon. All right, and now let's move on to my 5-star reads. I had 2, and I really loved both of these. One was another read for middle grade magic. I picked up Paola, Santiago, and the River of Tears by Tehlor Mejia, and this book was so good. So, like, you know how I was saying how Ghost Squad was more on the like silly end of the ghost story and stuff like this. This is the kind of middle grade ghost story that I personally love, where there's some actual scary moments, like almost like what's gonna happen next moments in this one. And it was a lot of fun, and not necessarily scary, more like adventure type scary. Like this is in the like Rick Riordan Presents line, so a lot of those books, it seems like, have those like kind of quest, kind of like coming into your own and realizing your powers and things like that kind of books. And loved this one. Every moment I was absorbed, and there was stuff happening. I loved the characters, just everything about it. So we are following Pao. That's what she goes by to her friends and stuff like that. And she has a friendship with a girl named Emma and Dante, and the 3 of them are best friends. And they are meeting up at this river, when one night when they're meeting up to hang out the river, Emma never shows up. And so Emma goes missing, and Pao and Dante are like, we need to go find our friend, and they had seen like a creepy guy kind of hanging out by the river, so, and the cops won't believe them when they say that, so they go off on their own to go and find their friend. They get in this whole world of like creatures, and I don't even know how to describe it all. I don't want to give anything away because I feel like as you go on, things are revealed little by little, but it is so much fun. I loved Pao as a character, and Dante too, but like especially our main character. I thought she was great because there are times at the beginning of the book where I was getting kind of annoyed with some of the decisions she was making, and she definitely had character flaws and things like that, but as you go on the book, you realize this author purposely put in every one of those character flaws, purposely made her this like, you know, three-dimensional character with, you know, strengths and weaknesses and all those things, and how those come together throughout the book is very, you know, it was done for a specific reason. Like every single character component that she has, like every part of her personality is important to the story, and I just love that like it's not just like writing a whiny preteen or whatever. Like there are parts of her personality that are going to come into play throughout the book, and I love that. I loved so many of the other side characters that we don't even meet till later on, so I don't even want to discuss them, and a lot of the like mythical creatures that they run into. I loved the ending of this book and just all the themes that came up, which I can't tell you about obviously, but I am definitely interested in reading the next one. I already have an arc of it, so that'll be getting picked up soon. So yeah, I would definitely highly recommend this one, especially if you like a little bit of creepy atmosphere in your like adventure quest kind of books. This one was great. And then the last book I want to talk about is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. I'm sure you've been seeing this everywhere on Instagram and BookTube and everywhere because it, you know, his book The Martian was so popular that everybody wanted to read this. And I just love this one. I might even like it better than The Martian. I'm not sure. They're pretty tied for me. There were so many good things about this that I had my husband read it immediately after I finished it so we could talk about it, because it's definitely one that you want to chat about, but you don't want to tell anybody any details, because part of the entertainment is seeing it unfold as the story goes. Because the only thing I'm going to tell you about this book, because I think even the synopsis tells you too much, is that we are following a man that wakes up and he has no idea where he is or who he is or like what his like purpose is. Like he like is completely memory gone, has no idea what's going on, and what follows is this whole space adventure fun experience. And obviously you know it's space because of the cover and all that stuff, but that's all I want to tell you. I know that some people want to know more, but I think even from the first chapter you're getting reveals, because since he has no memories, he's unfolding his personality and his surroundings and everything that he's doing little by little, and I think it's so interesting to be there with him, like learning what's going on little by little. So many good things about this. I just don't even know what to say because I don't want to give anything away. I will say the audiobook for this was really good because there is an element of this that is like really excellently done in the audiobook, but it is an Audible exclusive. So I know not everybody has Audible, but if you do have Audible, I would highly suggest the audiobook. But I also did read a little bit of this physically before I convinced my husband to use one of his Audible credits for us to read the book. And I thought it was still fine to read it and everything like that. So highly recommend this. I think it lives up to this like hype of everybody like seeing it all over the place. It is one of the newer releases that definitely lives up to the hype for me. I thought it was excellent. So that's it. Those are all the books that I've read in like a little over the first half of July. If you've read any of these and you want to talk about them, I would love to hear from you down below, and I'll see you next time. Bye.